Oh, this is going to be a hell of a show. I can tell you that right now. Welcome in the NBA Tip-Off Show here, powered by Wager Talk. As we've got, I'm just going to let Merrill count them. I probably don't have it right anyway. I'm going to entertain seven games. Is it seven?
Seven out.
7 games.
Our first guest hears that quite often in the casino.
Boom. We got 7 out here tonight, and already we've got line movement in a few of them here with some guys already ruled out. We'll do our best to put it all together for you. Of course, we'll hear from the Contrarian gods. We'll focus on a featured game. We've got a total that we'll look at. And, of course, 3 best bets coming your way with these 3 guys here today. As BP is in the house, as is RR1L, and the legendary Marco D'Angelo in the house, ready to go. This would not have happened if I knew Bryan P was on the show today. I would not have let royalty show up on this. Gentlemen, welcome in. We're going to hear from the Contrarian gods right off the bat, as they have honed in pretty early today, and I guess they're affecting the market because I am starting to see the Jazz at 6 now. This was 7 this morning, but we're starting to see 6, and I'm guessing that has something to do with Brown being ruled out at this particular point. Horford out, Jaylen Brown out, Porzingis out, Holiday looks like he'll probably go, Derek White, Jason Tatum in, Markkanen still out for the Utah Jazz. Second of a back-to-back for Boston. What are you thinking here, BP? Are you in agreement with the Contrarian gods that maybe this is one Utah can sneak out?
Yeah, Joe, last 2 weeks, as a matter of fact, on the show, in a rare lack of solidarity, I was not necessarily in agreement with the Contrarian gods. This week, though, I'll say why not. As you mentioned, no Brown, no Porzingis, no Horford for the Celtics. Second night of a back-to-back. They did win and cover last night, but that was against the lowly Trailblazers. And this will now be the Celtics' 5th straight road game and 3rd in 4 nights. So not just the second night of a back-to-back. They've got to be a little road wary. Looking forward maybe to go back to Boston, where they will host Phoenix, who they just beat on Thursday. That's a game that perhaps the coaching staff and players will care more about this one in Salt Lake City. My concern with the Jazz, though, Joe, is the first time these teams played, Boston won by 29, and it was a 71-40 game at the half. But it was a terrible spot for the Jazz that time. They were coming off a win where they scored a franchise record 154 points. That was against Detroit, admittedly. But they shot against the Celtics 36% overall, 18% from 3. At the time, both of those were season lows for the Jazz. Now, a lot of ground to make up, obviously, for Utah this second go-around, but they should care more, I think, than Boston does. Plus 2 days of rest for Utah. They're at home. They're 21-9-1 against the number at home this season. Not on my card, but a slight lean towards the Contrarian gods and the Jazz here.
Jazz, I believe they were, wasn't pretty there against Denver last time out, but they had a couple of days, Merrill, to think about it, kind of reflect. Might not mean a damn thing here tonight, though, against the Boston Celtics. So what are you thinking here? Are the Jazz the right spot, you thinking?
Yeah, so the past several weeks, I think I've rarely really sided with the Contrarian gods. I've been kind of maybe neutral and gone against them, but this is one spot where I'm fully backing the Contrarian play. In fact, this is my NBA free play of the day on my website right now on my page at WagerTalk.com. So we can save everybody a couple minutes. Just go to Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com and get the analysis, but I'll give you some quick hitting points. As Brian said, this is a terrible scheduling spot for Boston, and I actually did a standalone solo video last night for that Celtics Blazers game here on Wager Talk TV, and I recommended laying the points with Boston. Keep in mind the overnight line was 7.5 because a lot of the betting market odds makers thought maybe they would sit guys yesterday. When I did the video early afternoon, it was 9.5, and then when I hosted this show yesterday at 4:00 Eastern, just a few hours later, it was minus 12. Ronald Kabang and myself both mentioned here on the show that we liked Boston because it did look like both Brown and Tatum were going to play. And boy, did they play last night. They combined for 53 points, 33 and 35 minutes each. As I thought that was the game they were focused on last night, because now they're in a no-rest travel spot in the thin air and altitude at the end of this road trip. It was also their 50th win of the season. They were the first team to get to 50. I do think there's something there. This looks like the night off game, and I'm always very hesitant to back a team as a road favorite when I don't think they're going to be fully there. Just the injury report that you read earlier, now that Brown is out already, Horford also played last night. He is out already. This is not a focus spot. And then we have the thin air and altitude as well with no rest. Utah is definitely the only way to play this game plus the 6.
All right. So I hate to do this to you, Marco. Welcome into the show. We've already got 2 people agreeing. You know what happens if we get a third in agreement? We all have to run to the window and bet the Celtics here. But what are you thinking here? I mean, it isn't not a great spot, but Utah's not exactly a great team either. So what are you thinking?
Yeah. Is it possible to go contrarian to the contrarian?
To the contrarian.
I was thinking the same thing. It makes no sense. My mind is exploding.
I'm going to go with Boston. Okay. Everything that, both of my esteemed colleagues pointed out is true about Boston and being in a bad spot. But the one thing that they forgot to mention is Utah is complete dog shit right now. I can't back them at all. This is a team that's 2-10 their last 12 games. And yeah, you know what? I like to look for spots like this, and normally I would be on there, but I got to see a little bit of a semblance of life, and I just don't see any there with Utah. And last night's game was such an easy win for Boston. Granted, they're not going to have all hands on deck tonight, but, they didn't extend much energy in that victory last night. It was never in doubt with the win last night. Final game of the road trip. And yes, this is an automatic play where, it looks like a contrarian play because you're going against a hot team. But that's an angle in the NBA that's been around forever that everybody likes to look when somebody's playing back-to-back games and are rolling into Denver or they're rolling into Utah. The altitude, it's going to be a bad spot for them. Well, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, though, rolling into Denver and playing the Nuggets than rolling into Utah and playing the Jazz right now. And here's a little stat for you that kind of disproves that angle. Playing on favorites when playing their third game in 4 nights, who have a 750 or higher win percentage when playing a team with a losing record. And yeah, that would be Utah. How about the last 5 years in the NBA, 39-15? Now, I'll go contrarian to the contrarian, and I'll take the Boston Celtics and lay the shorter number because of everybody jumping on the other side.
Oh, thank God, Mark. It would have if we had a clean sweep, it would have been ugly. So thank you very much there for going contrarian to the contrarians here. As this should be, like I said, a very fun show. Welcome in. We do have a fun one here tonight. If you are maybe having trouble sleeping and you want to be bored to tears, welcome into part 2 of the 76ers and the New York Knicks going at it here tonight. First one to 80 wins. 6 is what we're seeing right now. 208.5. I mean, good Lord, it was hot tub time machine, man. Watching 1990s NBA all over again here. What are we doing with this game? I mean, one might think here, BP, you got to go over. They're going to score more points than they did last night. It can't possibly get any worse, especially with Maxey being back. It looks like Anunoby, in all likelihood, will be available to the Knicks tonight, right? They've got to score more points than what they did last time, or do they?
Well, central to the handicap, Joe, and you got hit on some of the key points here. These teams just played Sunday. That game, it set the sport back about 30 years. Yes, it looked very much like an early 90s basketball game. Philadelphia wins, just to put a number to what we're saying here. Philadelphia won at MSG 79-73 as a 7-point underdog. Now, teams are going to look different, though, this time around. Maxey for the Sixers, Anunoby for the Knicks. Interesting tidbit with the Knicks, guys. Last Friday, I took them at home versus the Magic. That was a win and cover for me. They held Orlando to 74 points. At the time, those 74 points scored by Orlando, lowest point total by any team in a game this season. So what did the Knicks do the next time out? Well, they break that record. They scored only 73. So not much scoring in the last 2 Knicks games. So, Joe, you know me too well. Because it's me, It sounds like it is a good time to come in and bet the over here on this game. In all seriousness, in the 4 games without Maxey, Philadelphia saw its offensive efficiency dip by about 10 points per 100 possessions. So his return significant at the offensive end. This current total flirting with the lowest over-under we've seen all season in the NBA. 2 weeks ago on the show, we had the lowest total of the year with Memphis and Minnesota. I said go over that number. It went over. Same thing here. I think we see more points than expected from the Knicks and 76ers, who hopefully play something more resembling 2024 basketball and not 1992 basketball.
212.5 opened up to 8.5. The market, a little recency bias there, Merrill. Maybe nobody thinking they can make it to 210 points. What do you think we're going to get in round 2 here?
Well, I mean, if Brian likes the over, he better hope Anunoby plays because he is extreme at both ends. If you look at his on-off court numbers this year based on 100 possessions, it's a 48-minute average, like a full game average per 100 possessions. They're about 8 points weaker offensively without him. But what jumps out to me, they are 17.5 points weaker defensively. Now, it's not a huge sample, obviously, because he came over in the trade late December. But still, those numbers jump out to you. So what that is saying is that they are 25 points higher scoring per 100 possessions with him on the court than off, because he's much better offensively, terrible defensively. So that's the X factor here. And as you said, Joe, he's questionable, and he's been out in recent weeks. So I'm staying off this game for that reason. But I would lean towards the Knicks. You're always looking to play the zigzag bounce back, and that would obviously favor New York in the over. I just can't play these real low totals over because they historically do stay under, but it is a contrarian call. With that other game being 79-73, I almost feel like the square public play is the under here. So it's keeping me off the total. I wish I knew the status, but I also think the Sixers could have a little rust with Maxey back in the lineup, as crazy as that sounds. They're still without Embiid, and they've been a really weak team without him, but they started to win without him. I actually had a strong best bet Sunday for my clients on the Sixers +7, so I did like Philly a lot on Sunday. I would look to do the zigzag tonight on Tuesday with the Knicks, and it really comes down to if the star players are in the lineup. I mean, obviously, Randle and Embiid are out still, the bigs. Brunson is back. Maxey is back. And Anunoby is going to be the real question mark in this game tonight.
Well, it is a question mark, Marco, but good Lord, you're having a hard time backing the Utah Jazz. How in the hell do you trust the Knicks in any way, shape, or form after what you just watched here the other night? Maxey's back, obviously good news for the Sixers. They did play some defense. Give credit to the Sixers here, but can they match that? It's the highest handled game. It's the highest. Everybody's bet it.
Misery loves company, I guess. I looked at this game, and this is, ugly on any way you want to look at it. So, you know what I decided to do? I'm going to take 10 seconds and just rant that I hate the fact that this started in COVID, and we got these games where they schedule 2 games with the same team back to back in the same city. I absolutely hate it. That's meant for the playoffs. So as Steve said, we can roll out our zigzag theory and use it. But now what they're going to do is they're going to dilute the zigzag numbers with these kind of things. But I agree with Steve. If I play this game, there's only one way to play it, and that is to look for the Knicks to bounce back in this one. Couple long-term angles in here. But again, looking at 2 teams that played as ugly as they did, and with the point totals that the Knicks put up in the last couple games, do you really want to lay points with the Knicks? Well, sometimes the hardest bets to make are the best bets to make. And if you go to the window and you find yourself struggling to say, give me the Knicks minus the points, you might be on the right side. And that's where I'm going to go. And here's the angle for you. Play against underdogs in the NBA. Over the last 5 seasons, playing teams that are coming off an upset win against an opponent off an upset loss. Now, the only problem is it's the same 2 teams playing right back again. So that's the asterisk to it. But when that situation has come up in the NBA over the last 5 seasons, playing against that underdog that won outright, you would have went 142-97 against the spread. I'm going to go ahead and land on New York, lay the points. Just an opinion. I can guarantee you that it's not a client play for me tonight, but that's the only way I would play the game if I was playing it. It's the Knicks minus the points.
4.5 to 6 now. So a lot of people loving that zigzag opportunity. And I would think that maybe the Knicks, since New Year's on a 26-6 under run, might have a little something to explain why we saw this thing drop from 212.5 down to 208.5. But it's got to be a line in the sand, and BP has drawn that line here at the 208.5. All right. Speaking of totals, I guarantee you there'll be more points in this game than there will be the Sixers and the Knicks game. By accident, there might be more points strictly on turnovers in this game than there will be in the other one. But we are going to look, of course, at the Indiana Pacers taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kind of hard to believe this thing actually opened up under 240, 237.5. We're now seeing 241s beginning to pop up all over the place. So, Marco, let me send it to you here then. You hated the Knicks and the Sixers. Do you like the over here with Indiana and OKC still?
Well, you sent it to me first, and I'm gonna piss you off, Joe, because I'm gonna tell you this is gonna be my best bet. All right, and I'm gonna keep you hanging until the end of the show. You finally gave me
give me a side then, damn it.
Well, if I had to go with a side in this game, I would lean to Oklahoma City. And whenever you hear my reason of why I like the total so much, you'll understand why I would lean to Oklahoma City. So how's that? Does that make you feel better?
Listen, the reason I chose you dingleberries, because I knew you were going to make this your best bet. And I wanted to get it out of the way. So BP, back to you now, so you can tell me over or under. Mark, like it's my first rodeo. Tell me here, BP, over or under tonight, OKC. I'm probably still going to hate his best bet, by the way, but go ahead. Tell us how you're going here, BP.
History has been made on WagerTalk TV as for the first time Joe Ranieri is happy to throw it to me. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. I better nail it. All right. This game is actually going to be my best bet as well, but it's my best bet's going to be on the side. I'll talk about the total here. Bottom line is I expect Oklahoma City to put up a lot of points tonight. They're already second in the league in offensive efficiency for the season, trailing only Boston, who we mentioned earlier. Indiana, bottom 5 per Hollinger in defensive efficiency this season. Of course, the Pacers could score too, guys. They're third in the league in offensive efficiency. And to the point you made earlier, Joe, about how you were surprised this total it opened below 240. Well, Pacers games this season have averaged a league high 244.5 points. So it's not a shock to me that the number was bet up. And in fact, given the number I just mentioned, the total may still not be high enough. But what I would do here, and this will probably give you some insight into my best bet coming up later in the show, is to take a look at the Thunder's team total over. That number sitting at 123.5, depending on your book. That's right in line with what they average at home for the year. And most of the teams that come calling to OKC are not as bad defensively as the Pacers. What would give me a little bit of pause about playing the game over is Indiana's offensive efficiency's taken a bit of a hit the last 5 games. If they do fall behind here, overall scoring could slow down in the fourth quarter. So let's just focus on that OKC team total. Again, 123.5, depending on where your book is.
A big shout out to the chat room, by the way. Have, Big Daddy, all of them do not believe for a minute I am ever happy throwing to you. And by the way, very nice, of you to actually talk about the total in that game, given the fact that it's an overtime segment, which focuses on the total. So thanks very much for really, really delivering on that. Merrill, please save me here, please. 241, Merrill. This thing has been bet up, but we are in the midst of a whole lot of unders, even with higher scoring teams here in the NBA. So which way are we going with this one?
Yeah, and by the way, in the best interest of the show, I just decided on my best bet for the segment coming up. It's going to be a game we haven't talked about all day. That's how you do it. Diversity. Hashtag diversification. My God, diversification nation. Marco and Bryan, join the team here. We're gonna look at the over here, Joe. I always talk about lowest totals under, highest totals over, and I mentioned earlier how that Knicks Phillies is maybe one of the lowest totals of the season, but I'm hesitant to play the under. It almost seems like that's the public play now. And we've talked about this the last couple of weeks. We're seeing a lot of 208s, 210s, 212s. We're seeing less 240s and higher now than we're seeing in the 2 teens. So I almost feel like playing the highest totals over is once again becoming that contrarian play that's going to work. And this is the highest total on the board. So the only way I'm looking is over. And I think there's several reasons it's going to work. First of all, Indiana's been an over team all season. When they weren't an over team is when Halliburton was hurt about a month ago, and they were so bad offensively. Keep in mind, he's not only a good scorer, a good shooter, he leads the league in assists, and that's the quarterback. That's what makes the offense go. He's healthy. He's in. Indiana is an over team for me, and I think the totals are starting to drop. I know they've gone under 5 of their last 6, but they're still very good offensively, very suspect on defense, and Oklahoma City is good enough to take advantage. Up and over would be the only way I play this total.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to sweat out an under in this game for sure here. All right, so there we got it. We had a little total there that Bryan Power eventually got to before he told us a whole lot of information nobody cared about. But he got to the total, which was great. Marco completely punted on it and promised I will not like his best bet anyway. And Merrill's the only one grounded enough to give us a damn play here that we asked for. So we are going to talk some dogs here, people, whether these 3 like it or not. It is time, Robert, to focus on the barking dogs. Let's see what we got tonight.
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. If anybody got to say anything, you let me know. That's my dog.
All right, let's see here. We've got plenty of ugliness here. We got Sixers, Grizzlies, the Jazz. We talked about the Bucks, now a dog. Timberwolves find themselves in a dog roll, as do the Spurs and the Pacers in this game. So not any, I don't think, right, no double-digit dogs. Nothing really ugly for you to get a hold of here, BP, but ugly nonetheless. So which one of these might be barking tonight for you?
Well, man, I should just give out a favorite once in this segment and act completely oblivious to it. But it's slim pickings tonight, kind of. I'm going to go back to a game we already talked about, so this will piss you off, Joe. We're going to go with the Sixers, actually. I get what these guys were saying about, it's the second game in a row these guys are playing. And, the Knicks have revenge. But the Sixers won the last game without Maxey as a 7-point dog. Maxey is back. I recognize Anunoby likely back for the Knicks as well, according to the reports. But I just don't think the gap is between these teams is as big as what the current market price is suggesting. You talked about it at the end of the featured game segment, Joe. The line's been bet up. At the current price, I'm more inclined to back the Sixers. The last time, guys, the Knicks covered as a favorite of 6 points or more, that was January 29th. Ironically, their first game without Anunoby. Steve talked about Maxey maybe being rusty. Well, Anunoby, he's been out longer. He could be a little rustier. So I will take the points for the purposes of this segment with Philadelphia.
All right, let me just hold on one second. Knicks bet. Okay, good job. Let's see if we can't go to Steve Merrill here for a minute. Merrill, what are you thinking? We got a few barking dogs here. Which one might you be looking at here tonight?
So as you knew all day long, Joe, there's 7 NBA games tonight. We were going to touch on 5 of them here on the show. I'm going to recircle back to one we've talked about, but I also want to let you know there is information on the 2 late games from yours truly. Ooh. I've got a strong best bet in that late game between the Bucks Kings, and also have a free play video for really the spotlight game tonight, the national TV TNT game between the Timberwolves and Clippers. You can check that out for free here on WagerTalk TV, and they get my best bet in the other late game. I'm going to circle back to what is my free play of the day at WagerTalk.com. We talked about it earlier. The Jazz +6 by far of the remaining games is the play I think that has the best chance to win outright, and they're actually a big dog. I know it looks obvious, but the fact that Marco actually leaned Boston makes me like it here. I mean, that's not because I want to fade Marco. It's just because I didn't want to see everybody on the same side, because the Jazz here, I know they've been bad, but keep in mind, home-road dichotomy is a real thing with Utah. And I know I keep talking about the altitude. You would think after decades that's been priced in, but obviously it hasn't, because look at their home-road split this year. They're still 19-12 straight up at home, 9-22 straight up on the road. They're 21-9 against the spread at home. and they're just 14 and I believe 19 against the spread on the road. So the odds makers aren't pricing these correctly, and this is a terrible spot for Boston. I do think it's a possible night off. Jaylen Brown, Horford already ruled out. The Jazz +6, as we talked about earlier, in my opinion, is a live dog tonight.
Big Daddy liking it. Big thumbs up. +6 for the Jazz here. Interesting that Milwaukee flipped, huh? From a favorite to a dog in this spot here, Marco. But what are you thinking here, man? I mean, only 7 games. Is there a dog that sticks out to you here?
There's not a dog that really sticks out because most of these dogs are dog meat. And I am going to end up taking one of those dog meat teams. And it's simply because I cannot lay points on the road with who they're playing. And one of the ugliest games on the card, obviously, is Washington at Memphis. 2 bad teams. Somebody's got to win it, but you're asking Washington to be a winner on the road. Now, I realize Memphis is decimated with injuries. I get all of that, but I still don't trust Washington. I realize they've won 2 games in a row. They beat Charlotte. Charlotte, right now is as bad as it could be, but they did beat the Miami Heat, and people are going to take notice to that. Well, if you know me in the NBA, in one of the angles that I always look at and I like is I love fading teams that come home from a road trip. Guess what? Miami was coming home from a road trip where they played a bunch of signature games on the road, and then they returned home to play Washington. Do you think they were mentally prepared for Washington? No. And what happened? Washington not only got the cover, they actually pulled off the upset. And now that gives us line value with Memphis here. They should not be a favorite. I'm going to go ahead, take Memphis plus the points just because this is as much a fade of Washington as it is for me taking the Memphis side here. And John Q. Public's going to look at this game and say, hey, if Washington can beat Miami, they surely can beat Memphis. And we know that's not the way things work in sports betting. I'll go ahead. I'll take the ugly dog, take Memphis plus the points tonight.
Yeah, I take it back. That is some ugly ass right there. I mean, look at this injury report. It's like 9 pages long here from Memphis. And it's not like the Washington Wizards are a wealth of health here. Rashawn Holmes is out. I mean, Bagley's. Wow. That is, I take it back. That is ugly here tonight. The absolutely disgusting game. Worse than the Knicks in Philadelphia, if you ask BP. All right, it's that time, guys. Best bet time here. As we'll throw 60 seconds on the clock, give these guys an opportunity to give us a best bet and do a little self-congratulatory pat on the back, or in BP's case, a best bet. 60 seconds here, BP. So I don't know what you're celebrating, but tell the fine folks and tell us what your best bet is here tonight.
Well, Joe, what I'm celebrating is that Tuesday is already off and running. We started the day with a nice win on UCF against Oklahoma State. I think they need a little bit more of that Joe Ranieri NIL money down in Stillwater because that program's not looking too good. I'll tell you right now. But that was college. Here in the NBA, we're number 1 over the last 30 days, hitting 70%, 60% for the season in NBA. So it's been going really good. And my best bet for the show is the Oklahoma City Thunder -6. Earlier, I mentioned that they're going to put up a lot of points tonight. Let me throw in a few more tidbits. Both teams had last night off, but the Thunder are playing their 3rd straight at home. Indiana, 6th different city in 6 games. They had 5 on the road, 1 at home. Jalen Williams is expected back for OKC. SGA is going to have a monster game. And this is a revenge spot for the Thunder. Oh, by the way, they're 16-5-1 against the number in those this season. Indiana, no chance. Give me the Thunder. Lay it with the home team.
Okay, good stuff there. Steve Merrill, double R, 1L. We're going to throw 60 seconds on the clock. Tell me where you're rolling here tonight for a best bet.
Going to look at a free over-under play in the NBA tonight in just a moment. I want to let you know I have a strong best bet on the late card tonight and also a bonus free play. 2 NBA plays tonight, 1 best bet, a bonus free play. Both are sides for my clients at WagerTalk.com. Number 1 all-time in college and pro basketball sides. Units won over 170 since I joined over 3 years ago. Check those out tonight on Tuesday, wagertalk.com. Steve Merrill. Free total for this show. We're going to take the Rockets and Spurs under 222.5. Wembanyama missed a couple games. They went over in both those games, but then he came back the other night, or actually last night to be exact, and they went under again. They're now 11-3-1 to the under in all other games. If you take out those two he just missed last week, he's probably going to be the defensive player of the year. He makes a huge difference on the defensive side. And meanwhile, the Rockets have quietly become one of the best defenses in the league. They've gone under 7 of their last 9. Yet their offense is still struggling at times. This is actually a pretty good underplay tonight between two teams that can stop each other. Houston, San Antonio, under 222.5.
Ooh. Thank you, Merrill, for including a game we have not touched on yet here on the show. Probably not going to get that luxury, I think, right now with Mr. Marco D'Angelo, who's going to harken back to his days when we gave him an opportunity to pass on it, but he didn't. He made it his best bet. So, Marco, 60 seconds on the clock. The floor is yours. What is the best bet here tonight?
Well, before I give you that best bet, I'll tell you, you can head over to my homepage tonight. We've got our 4% NBA game of the week. Guys, money won the last 3 years, #1 at WagerTalk in the NBA. Get that big 4% play. But instead of buying it for $25, use coupon code MARCO3, and you can pick up 3 days, $20 off. You'll get it for just $49. MARCO3, a 3-day all access. The play I'm going to use, I've told you guys over and over, tired teams don't play defense. And Brian picked it up. I didn't think you'd find that one. But yes, Indiana is playing their 6th game in a row in a different city. 12 games in the month of March so far, all 6 of them in a different city. Tired teams don't play defense, and this team don't play defense when they're not tired, and they're facing the Oklahoma City Thunder that can score. Over, all the way, guys. That's the best bet.
I'll let him fool you, Marco. He read your write-up before the show. It's the only reason he pulled that out of his ass. So let's go one more time, I could.
Marco likes me,
It is over and over for Marco D'Angelo, Indiana OKC tonight. We're going completely the other way with the San Antonio game against Houston, under 225.5 for Merrill. And BP, reading Marco's notes, takes the Thunder as well, -6 here tonight. So should be a whole lot of fun here when it comes to the 7-game slate in the association tonight. Big shout out again to those of you in the chat room. Titan CT, Terry, going with the Knicks as his best bet here tonight. Big Daddy, all of you guys, appreciate it. Hit a thumbs up if you could for us. We'd certainly appreciate it. And, of course, make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow, another edition of the NBA Tip-Off Show. Until then, on behalf of Marco, RR1L, Merrill, and BP, we appreciate the time, guys. Best of luck with the plays tonight. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Good luck.